A beautiful shift is quietly unfolding in your favor, and it begins the very instant you align your inner state with the reality you desire. Life does not move because of luck, chance, or random favor. It moves because you have moved. You have shifted something in the inner world. Your belief, your imagination, your assumption, and now the outer world must respond. There is no force more powerful than a mind that dares to accept a new truth about itself. Right now, a new story is being whispered within you. A story that says your struggle is not the end. Your delay is not denial. Your setback is not a verdict. The whisper says, you are stepping into a new chapter. And the moment you accept this whisper as real, the shift begins. You may not see the evidence yet. The outer world may still look familiar, even unchanged. But do not let appearances deceive you. All great transformations begin in silence. Just as dawn breaks long before the sun is visible, your breakthrough is already rising beneath the surface. A beautiful shift moves in your favor every time you choose a higher inner story. Every time you choose faith over fear. Every time you choose imagination over limitation. Every time you choose to dwell in the end instead of rehearsing the past. Your desire is not a coincidence, it is an invitation. An invitation from the unseen, calling you into the version of yourself that already possesses what you long for. When you accept this invitation, when you mentally walk into the reality where your desire is fulfilled, you set in motion a divine unfolding that no obstacle can interrupt. Hold the feeling of your fulfilled desire gently but consistently. Let it settle in your consciousness as a natural state. Know that once you occupy this state inwardly, everything outwardly must reorganize to match it. People, opportunities, timing, circumstances, they all begin to shift, subtly at first, then unmistakably. Trust what is happening even if you cannot yet see it. Trust the rearrangement. Trust the silence. Trust the stillness. What appears still is actually moving. What feels delayed is actually aligning. What seems uncertain is actually forming into clarity. You are stepping into a season where the invisible becomes visible, where the internal becomes external, where what you have imagined with conviction becomes what you hold with your hands. A beautiful shift is not coming, it is already here. It is moving in your favor right now, surrounding you, guiding you, preparing the path for you. Stay faithful to the unseen. Stay loyal to the vision. Stay rooted in the inner state you have chosen, because the moment you decided your life was changing, it already began. Life is not shaped primarily by external circumstances, events, or the actions of others. True power lies in the unseen realm of your thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions. Every visible outcome you experience originates first in the invisible realm of your consciousness, your inner state, the thoughts you dwell upon, the feelings you nurture, the assumptions you make, is the seed from which all external realities grow. It is the root cause, and everything you witness in your life is the effect. When you understand this principle deeply, you realize that no situation, no obstacle, and no person has the ultimate power to determine your experience. Instead, your inner world, your state of being, is the architect of the life you live. The tone of your inner conversations matters more than you may realize. When your mind is focused on lack, limitation, or fear, the outer world reflects that vibration. Opportunities seem scarce, doors appear closed, and circumstances appear heavy. Conversely, when you cultivate a state of confidence, faith, and certainty, life begins to rearrange itself to support that state. This does not mean you ignore challenges or live in denial. It means that by mastering your inner world, you begin to influence reality in a way that aligns with your desires. Your inner conversations, what you tell yourself repeatedly, the assumptions you accept as truth, act as invisible instructions to the universe, orchestrating circumstances that match your inner state. Every moment you spend imagining, believing, or feeling something is an act of creation. If you consistently dwell in worry, anxiety, or resentment, you are effectively planting seeds that manifest more of the same. But when you consciously cultivate a mental state of peace, joy, and expectation, you are planting seeds of abundance and opportunity. Life responds not to your complaints, but to the dominant state of consciousness you occupy. Changing the unseen. The thoughts you nurture, the feelings you hold, the beliefs you embrace, is therefore the most powerful act you can perform. This principle also reveals why so many people experience sudden shifts in life. They did not merely wait for luck or external change, they changed internally first. A small adjustment in thought, a shift in feeling, a new assumption about themselves or their circumstances often precedes remarkable external results. Once the inner state has changed, the outer world has no choice but to follow. Then, as with the outer world, it does not change, but to follow. People may notice the change as luck, timing, or coincidence, but in reality, it is the invisible law of cause and effect at work. To harness this power, you must become vigilant about your inner conversations. Notice the tone of your thoughts. Ask yourself, are my assumptions empowering or limiting? Am I imagining what I want to see, or am I fixated on what I fear? The answers to these questions determine the direction of your life. By choosing to dwell in states of faith, certainty, and constructive imagination, you initiate a ripple effect that transforms every area of your life. The unseen shifts first, and the visible cannot help but follow. Life rearranges itself according to your inner state. Master your consciousness, and you master the unfolding of your life. Change the unseen, and the seen will inevitably reflect the transformation. Your power lies not in trying to control the world, but in consciously shaping the inner world where all creation begins. Every great change in life begins with an assumption. What you dare to accept as true, even before it has any evidence in the physical world, sets into motion a chain of events that eventually manifests in your reality. The human imagination is not a mere escape. It is the workshop of creation. It is where possibilities are first conceived and planted. When you assume something to be true with conviction, you are planting a seed in the fertile soil of your consciousness. That seed, once fully embraced and nourished, grows into the conditions, circumstances, and experiences that will one day appear in your life. Assumption is far more than wishful thinking. It is not hoping or longing for something from a place of lack. It is a confident occupation of the state you wish to experience. When you assume that something is already true, you begin to align your thoughts, feelings, and expectations with that reality. Your consciousness starts to vibrate in harmony with the end you desire. You see, the world is a reflection of the dominant state of your mind. If your assumptions are strong, persistent, and unquestioned, they must express themselves outwardly. The outer world, by its very nature, mirrors the inner. This is why people often experience sudden and unexpected shifts. They may not have been actively trying to make it happen in the external world, but internally they assumed it to be true. They lived as if it had already come to pass. The assumption, nurtured consistently, eventually breaks through the veil of appearances, and the physical world rearranges itself to match the inner conviction. This is the invisible power of assumption. It plants the shift before you ever see movement. The seed grows silently at first, invisible to the eye, but its effects are unstoppable once it reaches maturity. The key lies in the faithfulness of your assumption. Doubt is the only thing that can hinder this creative process. When you entertain thoughts that contradict your assumption, you weaken the power of the seed you have planted. But when you remain loyal to the assumption, even in the face of contrary appearances, you fortify its growth. Imagine your assumption as a command given to the universe. The universe does not argue, it merely responds to the tone and authority with which it is delivered. The stronger and more consistent the assumption, the faster and more elegantly the shift occurs. Assumption is also intimately tied to feeling. It is not merely a mental exercise. The more you can embody the feeling of the assumed reality, joy, confidence, peace, or satisfaction, the more powerfully you impress it upon your consciousness. Feeling acts as the life force behind the seed of assumption, giving it vitality and momentum. Without feeling, an assumption is weak and unlikely to manifest. With feeling, it becomes irresistible, drawing the circumstances, people, and events necessary to make it real. Whatever you assume to be true, with full conviction and feeling, becomes the blueprint for your next reality. It is the quiet, invisible act that precedes all visible change. To master life, therefore, is to master your assumptions. To live deliberately is to dare to assume boldly, confidently, and faithfully, knowing that the outer world must inevitably conform to the inner truth you have embraced. Your assumption is the creative power that plants the shift long before it appears. True transformation always begins in the unseen realm. Long before any change becomes visible in your circumstances, relationships, or opportunities, a subtle shift occurs within your consciousness. This invisible shift is the precursor to every breakthrough, the quiet rearrangement of your inner state that sets the stage for the outer world to follow. Many people become discouraged because they only look for signs in the physical world. They wait for results, for evidence, for confirmation, and in doing so, they fail to recognize the invisible movements already taking place. Yet, it is in this silent internal reordering that the true power of creation resides. The inner atmosphere of your mind is like the soil in which a seed grows. If the soil is fertile, rich, and aligned with life, the seed germinates and eventually breaks through the surface. If the soil is barren, filled with doubt, fear, and resistance, the seed struggles or fails to grow. Similarly, the invisible shift in your consciousness is the preparation of the inner soil. You may not see immediate results, but your thoughts, feelings, and assumptions are tilting toward a new state of reality. This subtle adjustment is already aligning events, people, and circumstances in ways that will eventually manifest outwardly. What distinguishes those who experience rapid breakthroughs from those who remain stagnant is their ability to recognize and nurture the invisible shift. They understand that circumstances do not create change, they reflect it. By focusing on cultivating the inner state, by maintaining faith, clarity, and vision, they allow the unseen forces of life to organize themselves in their favor. The mind, once fully attuned to a new state, becomes a magnet for conditions that match it. The shift is invisible, but its effects are inevitable. Patience is crucial during this period. Many give up too soon because they expect immediate visible results. They fail to honor the process of the invisible shift. The mind moves first, often silently, quietly, and without fanfare. Like a river carving its path through rock, the internal movement is powerful and persistent, but it requires time to reshape the external landscape. The breakthrough is not the starting point. It is the end result of a shift that has been occurring long before you see it. This invisible shift is also about perception and feeling. You begin to see the world differently, even if outward circumstances appear unchanged. Opportunities that once went unnoticed become visible. Obstacles lose their power. Inner confidence replaces doubt. This change in perception is the first sign that the shift is taking place. It is a realignment of consciousness, a silent orchestration of life's circumstances to reflect your inner state. The invisible shift teaches that mastery is an internal art. Life moves in response to the state of your mind, long before it moves in response to your actions. Trusting the process, embracing the unseen, and remaining aligned with your desired outcome ensures that when the visible breakthrough occurs, it is not a surprise. It is the natural expression of a shift already complete within you. Long before life reflects it outwardly, the favor, the abundance, and the breakthrough are already forming in your consciousness, quietly tilting everything in your favor. Every desire that stirs within you carries a hidden message. It is not a reminder of what you lack, nor is it a reflection of scarcity. Desire is, in its purest form, a divine invitation, a whisper from the unseen world that what you long for is already present in potential. The very fact that you feel a yearning, a pull towards something greater, is proof that it exists in the unseen, waiting for you to recognize it and claim it. Desire is never arbitrary. It is a signal, a pointer, a call to awaken your consciousness to the reality that is already yours in essence. When you understand desire in this way, your entire relationship with life changes. Instead of chasing or striving in desperation, you begin to respond with awareness. You realize that longing is not a gap to be filled, but a door to be opened. Every longing is designed to direct your attention to a state of being that, once assumed, will inevitably express itself outwardly. Your desires are not dreams floating in the void. They are seeds planted in the fertile ground of consciousness, ready to blossom once you water them with faith, assumption, and feeling. Many people mistake desire for lack. They see a gap between their current reality and what they want, and they focus on that absence. This creates frustration, impatience, and anxiety. But when you shift your perception, desire becomes an empowering signal rather than a painful reminder. It tells you, this is your next reality. It is already yours in the unseen. Align with it, and watch it take form. Desire, therefore, is not something to resist or be dissatisfied with. It is something to embrace, honor, and cultivate. It points directly to the life that is waiting to be expressed through you. The process of manifesting desire begins with acknowledging it as already yours in principle. You do not need to see evidence in the physical world first. You do not need external validation. By dwelling in the feeling of your wish fulfilled, by living mentally as if it is already real, you answer the invitation embedded in your desire. Your consciousness then sets into motion the events, opportunities, and circumstances necessary for its fulfillment. Desire is the unseen architect of your future. It arranges, directs, and aligns reality according to the state you choose to occupy. Faith and imagination are the tools through which desire manifests. When you embrace your longing with certainty and embody the state that your fulfilled desire would produce, you transform yearning into reality. You step into a partnership with the unseen, allowing the invisible forces of life to respond naturally. Your desire is like a key handed to you from the unseen, and your inner alignment is the lock you must open to enter the reality it represents. Every desire is a sacred invitation. It is not a signal of deficiency, but of potential. It calls you to assume, to feel, and to live as if your wish is already accomplished. The universe is waiting to respond, silently aligning circumstances and conditions to match the state you occupy. Recognize your desire as an invitation, and you step into a life where what you long for is not distant. It is already forming, ready to manifest, quietly moving toward you through the power of your inner state. To live in the end is to inhabit the reality of your desire before it has manifested outwardly. It is not wishful thinking, nor is it mere daydreaming. It is a deliberate mental and emotional discipline, a conscious choice to align yourself with the state of the wish fulfilled. The moment you occupy this state in your imagination, you activate a process that begins to shape the circumstances of your life in perfect harmony with that reality. The unseen always precedes the seen, and by dwelling in the end, you set in motion the invisible forces that must eventually express themselves outwardly. Living in the end requires a complete shift of attention from lack to fulfillment. Most people spend their lives rehearsing their problems, revisiting their limitations, and focusing on what is not yet theirs. This habitual focus only reinforces the present reality. To activate the shift, you must redirect your consciousness. You must feel, think, and believe from the vantage point of already having what you desire. How would your life feel if this wish were already accomplished? What would your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions be? By answering these questions sincerely, you create a mental state that becomes irresistible to reality. The power of living in the end lies in its ability to magnetize conditions that align with your assumed state. When you are fully immersed in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you begin to notice opportunities, resources, and people that correspond to that state. These conditions appear naturally, almost effortlessly, because your consciousness has already prepared the soil for their manifestation. Life cannot help but conform to the dominant state you occupy internally. Just as a magnet attracts metal, your inner state draws the circumstances necessary to express it externally. Faith is the essential ingredient in this process. It is not enough to imagine casually. You must assume the reality of your desire with unwavering conviction. Doubt or hesitation weakens the mental impression, slowing the unfolding of events. To live in the end means to persist in the assumption despite external appearances, knowing that the unseen always governs the seen. The shift occurs first within, quietly and steadily, until it is powerful enough to bring about tangible change in the outer world. This principle also teaches the importance of emotional alignment. Feeling is the language through which the unseen communicates with the seen. If your thoughts are aligned with the end, but your emotions are full of uncertainty, the manifestation is delayed. But when your imagination is accompanied by genuine feeling, the satisfaction, joy, and certainty of the wish fulfilled, you provide the creative energy necessary for the shift to move forward. Feeling gives life to the assumption and accelerates the reorganization of conditions around you. To live in the end is to occupy a state of consciousness that the outer world has not yet reflected, yet must eventually conform to. It is the conscious art of assuming your desired reality now, trusting that every unseen force will respond in perfect order. By mentally and emotionally dwelling in the end, you magnetize the people, circumstances, and opportunities needed to bring your desire into form. Your inner state becomes the blueprint, and the external world becomes the faithful expression of the reality you have already embraced. Faith is not a passive hope. It is an active loyalty to what is unseen. It is the inner conviction that the reality you have chosen exists, even when every outward circumstance seems to contradict it. Most people surrender their desires at the first sign of adversity. They look at the world and believe that appearances are the ultimate truth, forgetting that the visible world is simply a reflection of what has already been impressed upon consciousness. True faith, however, is unwavering. It does not depend on evidence or confirmation. It thrives in the unseen, confident that the outer world must eventually align with the state it has already accepted within. Remaining loyal to the invisible requires courage. The world often challenges what you believe, tempting you to return to old patterns of doubt, fear, or limitation. Yet those who master the art of creation understand that loyalty to the unseen is more powerful than any external contradiction. Circumstances may appear delayed, people may resist, or events may seem unfavorable, but these are merely temporary appearances. The unseen truth, the state you have assumed, the vision you hold, the feeling you embody, does not waver, and by remaining loyal to it, you strengthen its influence over your external world. Faith is sustained through imagination and feeling. To remain loyal to the invisible, you must continually dwell in the state of your wish fulfilled. You must see, hear, and feel your desired reality as if it were already accomplished. The mind that imagines vividly and consistently is the mind that impresses its assumptions upon reality. Doubt and fear weaken the impression, but persistence and feeling deepen it. Every act of faithful assumption, every moment you return your attention to the unseen truth, fortifies the bridge between the invisible and the visible. Loyalty to the unseen is also a discipline of perception. The faithful do not evaluate life based solely on appearances. They understand that the senses report only the present manifestation, not the underlying potential. Just because something has not yet appeared does not mean it will not. By holding steadfastly to the assumption of fulfillment, you create a mental and emotional state that aligns all circumstances with the reality you have chosen. The unseen is patient, but it responds only to those who remain unwavering in their belief. Faith, in this sense, is a creative power. It is the engine that drives the invisible shift toward tangible expression. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to exercise faith, to reaffirm your loyalty to what you know internally to be true. The outer world may tempt you to surrender, but every moment of steadfast belief accelerates the manifestation of your desire. It is through loyalty to the unseen that miracles are quietly orchestrated, unseen forces are aligned, and the impossible becomes inevitable. Faith is the conscious choice to honor what you cannot yet see. It is the understanding that the invisible is always more real than the visible, and that life responds to the state you occupy within. By remaining loyal to the unseen truth you have chosen, you transcend doubt, resist limitation, and magnetize every condition necessary for the fulfillment of your desire. Faith is the silent, powerful force that ensures your inner vision is faithfully expressed in the outer world, no matter how long it takes for the evidence to appear. As we come to the close of this journey together, remember this: the shifts you seek, the breakthroughs you long for, and the blessings you desire are already moving in your favor. Every thought, every assumption, every feeling you cultivate is quietly shaping the reality that is destined for you. The unseen has already begun its work. Your role is to align, to trust, and to remain faithful to the vision of your fulfilled desire. Life is responding to the inner state you hold, and the moment you embrace this truth, the world must follow. So step forward with confidence, nurture your inner state with care, and dwell in the reality of your wish fulfilled. Hold unwavering faith in the invisible, for it is the most faithful architect of your outer life. Trust that the beautiful shift is not coming, it is already here, quietly unfolding, guiding and orchestrating every detail in your favor.